But we have really strong people in this country. We've been through a lot of mischievers in our history. So, like maybe genetically, people are ready to these kind of circumstances. So, and then there is enormous unity in the country.
Hello.
Hi, Leon.
How are you?
I'm okay. I can't say I'm great, but I'm okay.
Why are you not great? What's going on?
Well, I'm in Kiev, in Ukraine, so it's
You're in
kind
Kiev.
of okay.
You're in
In
Kiev.
some places it's really bad, but where I am right now, it's okay.
Well, hold on. You're actually in Kiev right now.
Right. So
Wow.
somehow your team found me and suggested to meet you, so I couldn't refuse. Yeah.
Wow, man. What's your name?
My name is Gela.
Gela.
Yeah.
Man. Wow. So you're actually right now inside Kiev.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So Gela, what is going on in Kiev, man?
Well, I guess you're hearing news, so it's pretty close to what is going on here. Maybe you can hear. Yeah, you can hear artillery and multiple rocket launchers, like at distance, and you can smell something burning. So it's been going for a month now. Every day you wake up and then you hear that some buildings were demolished, that many people died. So it's very sad. And then 2 days ago, I have my son's godmother's family, and the courtyard. It's about the apartment building about 2 kilometers away from me, and it was hit by a shell. Luckily, nobody died, but they spent 2 nights with me, and now they went back to stay at home, just because it's so unpredictable. So we used to live in a peaceful city, in a very good conditions, and now you wake up and you hear you sometimes you cannot sleep because it's so loud. Yeah, that's our new reality. So we are getting used to this because it doesn't look like it's gonna end soon. So that's my reality, man. Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's not as bad as it could be, as it is at some other places, because the major fights around Kiev are taking place about 15 kilometers away from where I live. So I can hear that. We cannot see that, but we can hear. And so it's quite unpredictable, so the situation in the city. And in other places, it's really bad. The people are suffering a lot. I mean, all of a sudden. So you live in a peaceful country and then you have a war. Yeah. I could never believe that. But now it's a reality, our new reality. Yeah. Lots of people left, specifically women and kids, but there are still many people staying in the city. Kiev, have you been to Kiev?
Man, no? I have been all across Ukraine.
Oh, great. So you know what Kiev is about. Yeah, and lots of people left. And people could live from the train station, but now it looks like people still can live from the train station, but on the way there might be unpredictable circumstances on the way of the train. So it's quite unpredictable now. Well, hope for the best. Yeah. It's hard to believe that one day this shell might hit our courtyard, but it's pretty close. And I would say that many of those shellings are quite indiscriminate. So yesterday, 2 days ago, it was a neighborhood right close to where I'm living, and it was like apartment buildings, market, some private houses. So nothing special, no military infrastructure. Yeah. I mean, I follow the news. Whatever I hear Putin to say, you should understand him. Like if he's saying we're not targeting civilians, which means we are not occupying Ukraine. We are. So I read his words the other way around. So whatever they say, it's just the contrary. So. But luckily, my family is in Spain already, so they left, as many Ukrainians did. So lots of people helped a lot in Poland, in Spain. So my kids started school in Spain. So they're in safety. This is the most important thing. Yeah. But the men have to stay in the country. That's my reality, man.
You know what? You've been speaking for 5 minutes, and I have had chills the entire 5 minutes. And as a human, and I may become emotional, but as a human, I just want to like grab you and take you out of Kiev and bring you here. It is sickening to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm at home, so I still have electricity, internet, food. So I have everything at home. But I know many friends, many people who lost their houses, and some of them lost their family members. So I mean, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I didn't know many people who lost something. But with each day, you know more people who lost their apartment. I have a friend in Kharkiv, and her house was shelled, and she lives in the first porch, and the flat on the fourth floor in the third porch just got hit with a shell, and there were like 4 porches in the house, and 2 of them just fell down, and there was like first and the fourth porch is still standing. So they spent 5 days in the school basement, and now they're at some other place, hiding in the basement. So it's still not as bad in Kiev as in other places, but it might get worse, because I couldn't hear this, I could hear the fights like at a longer distance, but with each day it's closer and closer. So we are very sorry.
And what were you doing before the war? Like, tell me a little bit about who you are.
Okay. I run a language school. So we teach Russian and Ukrainian for foreigners in Kiev, in Odessa, in Georgia, in Moldova. So I run language. I co-run language schools, and we have a team. But now we have some team in Poland, some in Turkey, some in Germany, some in Western Ukraine. Some people stay in Kiev. So it's still, now we are scattered all around. So I have a degree in languages, so I'm a polyglot. I speak several languages. So I attend polyglot conferences once in a while. Yeah.
Do you know what I notice is, on the outside, you seem pretty calm.
Yes.
I'm trying to think, if I was in Kiev, I don't know if I would be so calm. What's going on inside? I mean, maybe you're not as calm inside as you are on the outside. I don't know.
Well, the first 2 nights I spent in the basement, in the apartment building, in the shelter. But then I decided I'd better stay at home, whatever happens. So because I still don't believe that it might happen in my courtyard, but still the day before yesterday, I was certain that nothing would happen in that area. And now that my friend was smoking on the balcony, and then he saw that this shell hit the courtyard. So he was lucky enough not to be hit by shrapnel. But I mean, you get used to that. So you get used. And as I told you, in other places, people just go to buy food, and my friend, a friend of mine told me, I told her, yeah, it was 2 kilometers away. And she told me, she's an architect, I mean, the one from Kharkiv who lost her apartment. And she said, like, 2 kilometers, it's a huge distance in terms of this war. Because when we have these shells hitting houses like 100 meters away, it's still a long distance. So now the distance has a quite different meaning. I mean, if it hits your courtyard in one thing, if it hits like 100 meters away, you are still safe. I mean, that's what she is thinking about. And she told me, yeah, it's far away from where you live. Yeah. Yeah, it's different. You think differently. But you cannot spend like 5-6 times a day. You can hear this alarm, and so you won't go to the basement like 5 times a day. You get tired of that. But again, I would say that we don't have that much indiscriminate shelling in the city so far. Like in some neighborhoods, but not like constantly shelling. Not like that. Not like in Kharkiv or in Mariupol or in Chernihiv. It's a little bit different, but the situation might get worse. So this is my feeling.
So you think that they're going to start indiscriminately shelling in Kiev?
Well, it's because I'm following. I'm doing some sort of private research on propaganda. So I'm reading Russian propaganda with VPN and watching their websites, and like they don't even mention like places like Kharkiv or Chernihiv. Nobody knows about these places. So, and Kiev, it's the capital city. Everybody knows about Kiev. So, and in my opinion, somehow the concept of shelling Kiev is a little bit against the propaganda narrative, because the propaganda narrative is, yeah, we have to liberate Kiev because Kiev is the center of the Russian language or culture. But then, so in my opinion, if they start shelling the city indiscriminately, it will be in the very end. So it's still on the perimeter of the city, and there are some houses hit and some areas hit pretty close to the fight area. So it's hard to say, but people are quite scared. Like people are resolute, but at the same time, women and kids, if they stay in city, they're quite scared. So we helped our teachers to leave the city. Whoever could leave the city, they are in Poland now, in Germany. But we still have many teachers, our teachers from our school, still stayed in town because they cannot leave. They have husbands here, they have male sons, so they cannot leave for that reason. So some elderly parents. So this is a problem. And also a problem of elderly people, because my mother is 81, and she was born in 1940. She started her life with the war, and now she's 80, and it's a war again. So I'm also very sorry for them, for their generation, because for them they couldn't believe that something like this could have happened. Like neither we did, but for them it's quite tragic. Like, and many of these people cannot leave; they stay in their apartments, in their houses, just because that it's hard for them to move. Some of them are quite sick, and some of them don't have anyone to go with or to visit to. So that's the hardest for them, because women, kids, they not all, but many of them could live, and many old people couldn't. So, yeah, this is very sad.
I had an aunt who was in England, in London, during the Blitz. And I would always ask her stories. I would always ask her, how did it feel? So how does it feel to be under attack? How does it feel to have your country be invaded?
Well, this is something you cannot believe. As I said, I've been reading a lot. I'm quite familiar with the conflicts in the post-Soviet Union, like in Georgia and Armenia. So we take students on these tours to these destinations. So I'm pretty much familiar with that. But Ukraine is a huge country. I mean, Georgia was attacked in 2008, but it's a much smaller country. Ukraine is huge, and so it looks pretty much surrealistic. Like you wake up in the morning, you look out of the window, and it's still you see sun. It's nice weather, and then you hear shelling and bombing, and you understand it's like distorted reality, like cognitive dissonance. Like you see sun, it's warm, and at the same time there are people killing each other and dying, and so it's sad. And I'm really proud for the people of our country, of Ukraine. So many of them, like most of them, are really resolute and very angry with what Russia is trying to do in Ukraine, just killing the population. And but we have really strong people in this country. So we've been through a lot of mischievers in our history. So, like maybe genetically, people are ready to these kind of circumstances. So, and then there is enormous unity in the country, because what Putin is trying to, what his narrative is, just fighting Nazis and all this bullshit. So it makes people like stronger to oppose him, because it's like it's a false pretext to invade a country. I mean, I've been living here. I'm 50 years old, so I haven't seen a single Nazi in my life. So, I mean, it's all propaganda, and I'm really sorry for the people who just trust him, because it's total bullshit, and people still trust him. So I don't know. Maybe over time, people will realize what had been done, but so far it's really hard for Ukrainian citizens. Yeah, specifically those in the area living in those areas which most indiscriminately shelled and bombed, like Mariupol or Kharkiv or Chernihiv or Sumy. So,
if the Russians came into Kiev, which I hope they never do, but if they did, would you fight?
Yeah, it's a very good question about taking up arms. I wouldn't say that I'm already ready to take arms. But then it's hard to predict how you can behave yourself under these circumstances. Like lots of people took up arms and this in territorial defense and protecting the city. So I'm still not doing that. But again, it depends. The situation is quite fluid. So might be.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question, which may be difficult to answer, may be easy to answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Are you ready?
Yes.
If you were in the room with Vladimir Putin, what would you say to him?
Yeah, I don't think the words really matter. I wouldn't speak. So it's not about words. I mean, I guess he hear different voices. So, but what decision? It's hard to say what decisions he makes and what drives his decisions. Yeah, as far as I understand, whatever other people say, he has his own viewpoint. But I remember when I was quite naive back in 2014, as you remember, when the Crimea was annexed. And back then, I even wrote a letter saying that Ukrainian and the Russian people will never be friends again because of this, because I followed the news from the very beginning. But then I understood there are big stakes in the politics. And for some people, these stakes are more important than human lives. So I don't think he's a real human being, because were he human, he wouldn't kill kids and women, like in the country which he considers to be brotherly. I mean, people are fed with this propaganda, and many of them just believe that they're here to kill Nazis. Like, but what Nazis have to do with the women and kids? So it's still the question he should ask himself. Yeah, it's a hard question. I know. It's very hypothetical.
But the rage isn't. And I'm not in Kiev.
Yeah.
I'm not in Ukraine. I have no bombs being dropped on my head. But there's rage. And I can only imagine how much rage is inside you and inside the people of Ukraine when they wake up every day and they see bombs and death. The rage must be just visceral.
Yeah. That's true. People are very angry because you follow the news, you watch these videos, and then it's horrible. It's really horrible. It's 21st century. Like we created iPhones, space shuttles, and then people kill each other with Grad, with these multiple rocket launchers. Like, it's so primitive. It was first made it back in 1960s, and still people are killing each other with that. It's so tragic, I would say. And where are you? Where are you based?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Ah, okay. Nice place.
Yeah. Do you have any Russian friends?
Yeah, I have a lot of Russian friends. And all of them disagree. But I have progressive friends. I mean, just people who travel a lot, who know what's going on. And like many of them left already. They left Russia because they see that it was an authoritarian state turning totalitarian real quick. So they cannot foresee the future because it looks like the country is closing up. So it might look like North Korea in the near future. Looks like that. Yeah, I have friends who had businesses, like foreign friends who had businesses in Russia, so they all left. Yeah. Yeah, it's very difficult for people who disagree with the government to raise their voice. Or if they raise their voice, there are not so many channels of information to hear them, because as you know, Russia has closed all majority of social media and newspapers, TV channels now. So it's all controlled by the government. Yeah.
So many of us suffer from anxiety. I'm one of them, right? Yet, the level of anxiety, like I feel, like, I'm in LA, I'm safe. You're there, and I'm feeling anxious for you as we're sitting on this podcast. I'm like, something may happen. And you have to live with that every moment.
Yeah.
That does something to you inside. That like burns the anxiety neurons in our brain. Something. I mean, how do you cope with that?
Yeah, I would say I was more anxious when my wife and kids were here. So I was more anxious for them. And my wife was really nervous. So, but then they left and they're in safety. I feel much better. I mean, although I am alone here, but I know that my kids and my wife are in safety. So I can feel better. So I wouldn't say that I feel that much. I'm not that much scared, I would say. Yeah, I understand this might happen. Like everyone can be killed under any circumstances. But then at the same time, I'm not living my country because I'm I was born here. I am Georgian, by the way, but born in Ukraine. So it's my country, and I feel more comfortable at home than any place else. So, yeah, but there is some anxiety for sure. So, but I still can sleep quite well because as compared to the people living 15 miles away, where houses were flattened, like people stayed in shelters for 2 weeks at least. And two of my teachers spent 2 weeks without food in shelters. So, and they left and they staying somewhere and still cannot believe that this will happen. So in my case, as I'm saying, it's still okay. But the situation might deteriorate quite quick. And we are strong here. We still believe that the truth should prevail. And there is a lot of support from the world, from European countries and other countries. So people are supporting us. So this is really important. So,
what do you think Russia wants? I mean, truly, like, when's this going to end? Like, what do they want? What do they really want?
I think they want to humiliate the very idea of Ukraine, because Putin has made this lengthy speech a week before the war started, just preparing the local public for the war. And he started this narrative that Ukraine wasn't the real country, all this bullshit. So I guess it's very important for him just to humiliate the country and just occupy the territory. Whatever he says about non-occupation, he is interested in occupying Ukraine. So they started occupation in 2014, and now they will continue it. So that's my opinion. Is I read different analysis. So I guess he would like to take most of the southeast of Ukraine, just divide the country.
But if he does, and if he occupies a big part of Ukraine, do you think that the Ukrainian people will have an insurgency, or will they just lay down their arms?
No, they will. So this war may drag on for years, because Ukrainians have always been, historically, we're really good in waging this guerrilla war. So, but they will definitely result in many more deaths and civilian casualties. So this is a problem, yeah. So it looks like in this war it's hard to win. Like it's all about casualties. So, and then more women and kids are being killed each day. So this is sad. Yeah. And there is nothing we can do to prevent this. And then I followed some interviews with captured Russian pilots, and whatever they say about their assignments, they say we had an assignment to bomb the city. So I don't know. This is something that these people will live with. But the problem is that nobody can revive the people who died. And you have a comfortable lifestyle. I've been running business for over 20 years. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And then your life is broken, and everyone's around you. But luckily, I still have an apartment, but many people lost their houses. Today, a friend of mine sent me a picture, and there are like 3 families living in one house. And this friend, he spent most of his life building this house for his family. And it was flattened yesterday. So he survived because they left 5 days ago with the whole family. I'm so sorry for these people, and those who left their beloved ones. So, yeah, this is something hard to believe, but then over time, you're used to living with that. Hearing this shelling and bombing, and then reading news, who was killed where, how many people. 10 people here, 20 people there. So,
I saw an article, actually a TV segment of a Russian news anchor showing drone footage of Mariupol and saying, this is so sad that the Ukrainians are destroying their own cities as they retreat. Right? So she was telling the world that it's the Ukrainians that are blowing up Mariupol.
yeah, that's how the propaganda works, because they definitely they entered the city, and there is no way for the Ukrainian army to leave the city, because the city was surrounded, and they're using these battleships in the Azov Sea, so no way to withdraw. And then, of course, the more they wage this war, the more destroyed buildings people see. And now they have to come up with some ideas what to say to how this would fit in the narrative of them saving their populations. And they definitely come up with this concept that Ukrainians kill themselves, because somehow they have to say something to their public, their populace. And then, of course, they're not showing Chernihiv or nor Kharkiv in their news. It's only Mariupol, and in Mariupol they're saying that all Ukrainians defending city, they are Nazis, or this bullshit. And then they're blowing out apartment buildings with themselves. I mean, there are so many stupid things they try to make their people believe, and they do believe. They do believe. I would say that all this mess was created by the Russian propaganda back in 2014, because when the revolution started, they had somehow to change this narrative for their own populace, just to capitalize on the situation and annex the Crimea. So that's why they started all this narrative about Nazis, all this bullshit, just to make people believe that they were real Nazis killing Russian speakers. I mean, I'm Russian, I'm Georgian, living in Ukraine, teaching Russian to foreigners. So but whatever I hear, it's so stupid, so stupid. And then as far I remember, Goebbels would say that the more stupid things you try people make believe, they do believe that. I mean, your lies should be so stupid so that people finally would believe that. It's so sad. They will find a reason for their own population. So, yeah, that's the story.
There's a famous quote from Voltaire, and in it he says, if you can make people believe absurdities, you can make them commit atrocities. Right.
Exactly. That's exactly the case. Yeah. Because, the Russians were always fed with the victory. I mean, my grandfather, he was in the Second World War. He was injured and he had a medal. So, I mean, how did it happen that Russians who've all been with Ukrainians together fighting this war, now they believe that Ukrainians are Nazis? I mean, it took long 8 years for the Russian propaganda to convince people that it's hard to kill people, but it's easy to kill Nazis. So, and it took 8 years to make people believe, until the point that they could start this war. And still, majority of population still believe the president. So this is something I still cannot understand myself. So
let me tell you something. I basically, what Hitler did in the Second World War was he dehumanized the Jews. What happened in Rwanda was that they dehumanized the Tutsis, right? Or the Hutus, one of the two. What is happening here is that he is dehumanizing you so that it is easier to do what he's doing.
Yeah, because in Rwanda, they would say that there were cockroaches. That was a major narrative on the radio stations. Here they say that they are Nazis. So it's easy to say Nazis, to kill Nazis, because Nazis are enemies. So, yeah, this is the same old trick used each time to prepare people for an invasion, for some kind of atrocities. So, but the point is here, I mean, Ukrainians and Russians, like I was born in the Soviet Union, right? My father was Georgian. My mother is half Ukrainian, half Russian. I mean, there are lots of families, like majority of families in Ukraine and Russia are like that. I mean, my generation and even younger than me. So all families have links between Russia and Ukraine, family links, aunts, uncles, grandfathers. The problem is these people, your family, they don't trust you. They trust mass media. This is a phenomenon. You call them and tell them that they're bombing us, and they don't trust that. It's not true. That's how propaganda works. I mean, in the 21st century. So all these mass media, and then they have really professional people behind that. So really good in polarizing opinions and creating this boogeyman. So,
you know, I went to Auschwitz in 2012, and I tell people, because I give speeches, I tell people that if we live in a world without empathy, Auschwitz will happen again, right? And I truly, truly believe that. When there are people making decisions with zero empathy, what is happening in Ukraine happens again and again and again.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, very sorry about that.
So listen, man, what can I do to help you? And let me tell you something. I do not say that lightly. What can I do to help you?
Well, I guess it's very important to spread the word of truth, because I reported on the Japanese television or Spanish, French, American. So it's very important to spread the word of truth so that many people know your personal story. I mean, not someone else's, but your real story. And then make people believe that it's what's going here. That's the way it is. I mean, this is important. I don't know how the world community can influence Russia. It's hard because this is a real aggressor state. So hard to understand how the world community can influence this process. But I guess it's very important to support Ukrainians, like the Ukrainian refugees. There are lots of them right now. There are over 3 million flood in Europe. So it's going to be a huge humanitarian crisis. And so supporting these people is really important now. The more people we can support, the better. So this is my conviction. And then, well, let's see how everything is going to develop, the situation. It's hard to say.
So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to again, you know, I'm just one man, right? Okay. I'm going to write a post. I'm going to explain this heartfelt conversation that you and I had, right? And then, if I'm not mistaken, America is taking in 100,000 Ukrainians, right? So I'm gonna offer someone the opportunity to stay with me, okay? in order to help in my small way. Right? That is my promise to you, and that is my promise to anyone who is listening to this conversation. Right?
Right.
I will send you the post before it goes out, so that you can be happy with what I've written, right? Which I'm sure you will be. And that is my promise to you and to anyone who's listening, and to the people of Ukraine. One small thing that I can do, and I will do that.
Okay. Thank you, Leon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Man, you're a brave man. I can see you're a kind man. And I'm sorry this is happening to you. I'm sorry this is happening to the people of Ukraine. I feel your pain. And when the conversation is over, let's exchange numbers. And this is wrong. And sometimes wrongs have to be righted with strength.
That's true.
And let us see who ends up being the stronger.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much.
I'm not a big wig, I would say, just a regular citizen of my country.
Well, neither am I. So it's all good.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
Hello everyone, it's Leon here, aka the Kindness Guy. If you like my videos, which I hope you do, don't forget to press the subscribe button and also to ring the little bell so that the notifications notify you that I have